Ruby says, some people can only deal by avoiding things. I've never been able to. Wouldn't really want to if I could, despite the pain and grief. So avoidance is the natural state of the human mind. It does not, the ego process creates a sense of separation from the world. And then its whole goal is to keep you comfortable as much as it can, avoid pain and seek pleasure. It's a seeking machine and an avoidance machine. And so it'll take any confirmation that'll try to do that. So when you see through the ego as just a process appearing in consciousness, not you, ego is not you, then those repressed energies start to arise and they can flood you actually. So it can actually be too much if you don't have an understanding, if you don't have support, if you haven't done some of this work beforehand. It can be overwhelming, especially if you've had a lot of trauma and all of that. People can get flooded with this unconscious stuff and they fall apart. A good example, a good kind of real world example of this phenomenon, I don't know how many of you guys know this singer-songwriter Elliott Smith, really big in the late 90s and early 2000s. His last album was Basement on the Hill. If you haven't heard it, take a listen. He struggled with depression, anxiety, addiction, fame, and was the victim of childhood abuse. So his stepfather physically and probably sexually abused him when he was young in Dallas. And then he grew up and he went to New York and Portland and LA and had a very kind of his music was very dark, but beautiful. And he struggled with a lot of addiction because he was self-medicating the intolerable feeling that came from the trauma, the abuse, the depression, the anxiety. And so alcohol, heroin, drugs were part of it. And he wrote many songs about this. And his last album was when he'd finally gotten fully clean. And when he got fully clean, there is this syndrome called PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And what that means, more or less, and I'm not an expert in this, but what it means is you were using all these substances to repress these energies and numb them because they were so intense. And addicts tend to have that sensitivity. They're much more sensitive than the average Joe. So those kind of traumas are they're felt in a oh my God, overwhelming way. And so when the drugs go away and you get clean, that's beautiful. But all those energies that you've been medicating start to come back. And if you don't have support, it can be really quite horrifying because everything you've been avoiding now is not avoided. But maybe you don't have the tools still to disidentify from the sense of ownership of that, from the sense of the personality is everything, the person is this. And now all this stuff comes in and this person can't tolerate that and falls apart. And in Elliott Smith's case, he wrote some amazing songs on this posthumous album and died by suicide during that period of post-acute withdrawal syndrome when he was clean. And it was really tragic. But also when you listen to the songs, it's all there. It's all laid out. It's all spelled out in Basement on the Hill. And he has a song that I thought was so beautiful I've been listening to on repeat called Memory Lane. And the song is written from the standpoint of someone who's in a psychiatric hospital for presumably suicidality, depression, and has a history of terrible trauma. And Memory Lane is his sort of metaphor for those feelings and memories of childhood and trauma coming up. And he calls it his little house on memory lane. So the whole song is about how he says, everybody's scared of this place. They're staying away. Your little house on memory lane. You can't go there. It's too much. It's too much. And when you tell the psychiatrist, when you tell the mental health professional, I'm having these overwhelming feelings, they're like, okay, shut it down. Here's some medication. He says, I take what's given me most cooperatively. I basically lie in bed all day, horrified. I hope you're satisfied. He's not able or allowed or given permission to feel this, with the support. And it's really a beautiful, tragic song, and you can feel right into it. Anyone who's had the normal trauma of life it's this felt as, trauma. Um, so when it's unrepressed, an awakening can unrepress that, because now the mechanisms of mind are softer. The ego is softened and disrupted. It's kind of loosened. Its grip is kind of seen through a little. And it can be permanent or not permanent, abiding or non-abiding awakening, as Adyashanti says. And there's all this underneath, right? So, for me here, I can just speak for myself. Like, it's really hard, but it's not hard like it was for Elliott Smith, who'd been medicating all those years, who'd been avoiding. In a way, I've been doing this work for years, but, and I also have so much support and my, karmic circumstances, like my luck in life to have an amazing wife and kids and family and be raised, by loving parents in a, nuclear home and all of this. Like, it's so much positive luck that I've had that allows me then to do the work and feel held by the universe, have a basic trust that this is okay. But many don't have that. Many don't feel that way. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's okay. This is a normal part of the unfolding, and the universe does hold you. It does. There's infinite unconditional love at the root of reality. That's what it is. That's what you are. And you may not see it because mind apparently obscures your true nature. But that's what this is. That's what we're talking about, is rediscovering your true nature, which is this unconditional love, this beingness, this nowness, infinite, out of space, out of time, always and already what you are, but you don't see it. So that can tolerate anything. It can tolerate the energies of being a human. It can hold them and love them unconditionally. And then you can hold and love others unconditionally, and you can hold yourself, your apparent character, unconditionally with love. Ruby Laguna says, I remember you saying, hold your trauma like a baby. Since then, I've found the miracle is you find you are large enough to contain even the whole world's suffering. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Ah, yeah. You are, because what are you? Are you Ruby? Or is Ruby happening within what you are? So you're holding your suffering, your trauma like a baby, like you would hold a baby. Like a mother is infinitely able to bear this baby's suffering. That's the mother. You can do that for your own suffering, because what you are is infinite, unconditional, redemptive love. Redemptive meaning to make whole. Whatever sense of brokenness was there can be made whole just by the light of your awareness. That's it. It's always been whole. So you're bringing it back to the understanding of what it was.